Chapter 9. Swift Eagle. Although frightened, Pam Hollister knew she must think fast. What should she do about the bear that was coming toward her and Holly? They could climb a tree, of course, but the girls remembered that bears can climb them, too. "Oh, Pam, he looks so hungry," Holly whispered. This gave Pam an idea. Maybe the bear was not unfriendly after all, just hungry. He had probably smelled the bag of popcorn she was carrying and wanted it. Pam gave the bag a great heave. It landed directly in front of him and opened. The bear stopped, sniffed, and reached a paw inside. He put some of the popcorn into his mouth. Then, apparently liking it, he took the whole bag between his front paws and sat down on the ground to enjoy it. Seeing this, the two girls raced away. Both were out of breath by the time they reached their brothers. After they told them what had happened, Ricky wanted to go back and look at the bear. But just then their mother appeared and forbade this. They hurried on, and Holly reported the exciting adventure to her father and a bellhop who were packing luggage in the bus. "That was quick thinking, Pam," Mr. Hollister said, putting an arm around his daughter. The bellhop said that the bear was really tame, but that he had frightened several people recently with his appetite. "His sweet tooth gets him into trouble," the man chuckled. The Hollisters said goodbye and stepped into the bus. Soon it was winding down the mountainside. "Let's play a game," Sue suggested as they drove along. "How about that song game, Dad?" Pam asked. Once before on a trip, Mr. Hollister had introduced this game to his children. He would whistle a few bars from the middle section of a tune, and they had to guess what the songs were. "Come on, Daddy, start," Holly said eagerly. Her father smiled and began to hum part of a familiar song. "Oh, I know what that is," Ricky said. "Home on the Range." "Right, 1 point for you," his father replied. In turn, Mr. Hollister hummed or whistled sections from Yankee Doodle, Dixie, and the Star-Spangled Banner. Sue, Holly, and Pam each guessed a name correctly. "Guess I'm the dumb one," laughed Pete. "Whistle another tune, Dad. I want to get a point." Mr. Hollister was about to, when he suddenly jammed on the brakes. Everybody pitched forward as the bus came to an abrupt stop, its tires squealing. "Did we hit something?" Sue cried out. A quick glance out the side windows provided the answer. A coyote had run into the path of the bus, and only Mr. Hollister's quick action had spared the animal its life. The coyote scooted behind some tumbleweed and disappeared. "Oh, I'm glad that baby dog didn't get hurt," Sue said. "I wish we could catch it." "Mother wouldn't like it," her father said. "The coyote is really a kind of wolf, and destroys sheep and cattle." When the bus started up again, the children played other games. Pete and Pam had a struggle, naming all of the 48 states. Then Holly beat Ricky in a spelling bee, when her brother missed on scissors. But Ricky won the next game, of naming the most makes of automobiles. A few miles further on, Pete spotted a mud-spattered pickup truck, parked at the right side of the road some distance ahead. They could not see whether anyone was in it or not. "I wonder if the driver ran out of gas," Pam remarked. As Mr. Hollister drove up and slowed down, an Indian stepped from the truck and flagged them to a stop. The tall, handsome man had graying black hair, high cheekbones, and a friendly smile. He was dressed in khaki trousers and a brown shirt, open at the neck. Before he had a chance to speak, Holly climbed from the bus and asked with a smile, "Are you a Yumatun Indian?" When he answered yes, she said, "Onsegiyan?" A look of complete amazement came over the Indian's face. He started to speak rapidly in Tiwa. Holly shook her head that she did not understand. Pam had stepped out of the bus and said to the Indian, "We know only a few words in your language, like Tsewe-umpe and Tsewe-umtsua." The Yumatun looked more bewildered than ever. "Those are my grandchildren," he exclaimed. "Then you're Swift Eagle, governor of the Yumatons," Pam burst out. By this time, all the Hollisters were crowding around him. "This is very strange," said Mrs. Hollister. "We have a letter of introduction to you from your nephew, Indy Rhodes." "It's a tiny world, even way out here," Sue sighed, and the Indian laughed. Mr. Hollister introduced his family, then Swift Eagle read Indy's letter. "I haven't seen him in a long while," the governor said, leaning against his truck. "I'm glad to hear he's well." "How are Red Feather and Blue Feather?" Ricky spoke up. "Fine. They'll be delighted to meet you," their grandfather assured the Hollisters. "I'll be happy to show you around the Pueblo if I can ever get back there myself." "Are you in trouble, Swift Eagle?" Mr. Hollister asked. "Something's wrong with my engine," came the reply. "I wish I were a mechanic as well as the governor." "Let me look at it," Mr. Hollister offered. He examined the motor, but could not find what was wrong with it. "Suppose we push your truck to the next garage," he suggested. Swift Eagle readily agreed. As he slid into the driver's seat, the Indian called to Ricky and Pete. "How would you boys like to ride with me? I can tell you some stories about the Yumatons." "Oh, thanks, we'd like that," Pete answered. The brothers hopped in quickly. When Pete signaled to his father that they were ready, the bus began to push the truck slowly along the road. As soon as everything was going well, Pete told Swift Eagle about the rodeo he and Pam had been to, and how Warhorse had given them a clue to the lost turquoise mine. "Do you know where the Twin Caves are?" the boy asked. "No, and I've never heard that Twin Caves would lead to the mine," he said. He added that many years before, he had heard someone mention 2 old caves on the mountainside. "Perhaps those are the Twin Caves you mean," he said. "I'll have to try to find them." "If you do," Pete went on, "then Warhorse said to walk east from there, and you'll come to the mine." Swift Eagle smiled. "I hope it will be as easy as that," he said. "Don't forget the mine is buried under tons of dirt from the landslide." "But maybe the entrance isn't buried so deeply," Pete said hopefully. Shortly before noon, they came into a little town made up of a few small buildings. One was a post office, another a restaurant, and a third was a garage. Mr. Hollister pushed Swift Eagle's truck in front of the repair shop. Then they all got out. "In return for your great favor," Swift Eagle said to Mr. and Mrs. Hollister, "I'd like your family to be my guests at lunch." "That's very kind. We'll accept," Mrs. Hollister said. While they were eating, Swift Eagle said he was sure the children would have a fine time in Agua Verde and at the Pueblo. "I'll tell my grandchildren you Anglos are coming," he said. "What do you mean by Anglos?" Pam asked him. Swift Eagle grinned. "I can see you are truly from the East," he said. "You'll want to learn the expressions we use in the Southwest." He went on to explain that the people who are not Indians or of Spanish descent are called Anglos. "You mean I've been an Anglo all this time and didn't know it?" Pete grinned. They all had a pleasant time at the luncheon table. By the time they finished eating, Swift Eagle's truck was ready. He climbed into it and waved to the Hollisters. "See you at Agua Verde. Let me know when you arrive." "Seguidijo," the children called as they drove away. "He'll get there much sooner than we will," Mr. Hollister told his family. "I find this school bus was not built for speed." "Won't we get there today?" Holly asked. "I'm afraid not," her father replied. "I wouldn't want to drive after dark. We'll stop late this afternoon at a place I've read about. It's run by Mexicans." When they drove up to it about 6 o'clock, the children said it looked just like pictures in their books. It was a low, orange-colored adobe building with an open-air garden in the center. This was filled with desert plants and flowers. Chairs decorated with bright designs stood among them. As soon as Mr. Hollister had made arrangements for rooms, they walked into the attractive patio and sat down at a table. The proprietor, Mr. Ortega, dressed in a colorful Spanish costume, said that this hotel specialized in chili con carne. Would they like to try it? Mrs. Hollister was not sure the children would care for it, and ordered small portions for them to try. Chili con carne is made of beans and meat, she said, and is seasoned with chili pepper. When the waiter brought their plates, Sue was the first to put a spoonful into her mouth. What a dreadful face she made! After gulping it quickly, she reached for her glass of water, then exclaimed, "This is made of fire! But I guess it's good." The others tasted theirs warily, but after a couple of spoonfuls they liked chili con carne. They also enjoyed eating sopapillas, hollow bread which tasted much like donuts. The meal ended with Spanish melon, and Holly declared she felt stuffed. "Let's play hide and seek," she said. Holly closed her eyes and began to count, while her sisters and brothers ran to find hiding places. Ricky went so fast he suddenly tripped and reeled toward a spiny cactus. The boy tried to stop, but lost his balance and sat down hard on the spiked plant. "Ouch!" he shrieked. "The cactus bit me!"